tuned in to Chicago's fastest growing and number one for fun sports podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse, brought to you by Chicago Sports Podcast, TC's World of Wonders, Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, and Budget Jet Cars. We welcome you, friends, to a Super Bowl of a show, our special Monsters edition of Football Night in Chicago. Tonight, we are welcoming an award-winning Chicago sports journalism icon and one half of Chicago's top-rated sports talk show, The Score's Mully and Haugh. The one and only David Haugh, ladies and gentlemen, joins the Monsters tonight. David, we've got Mike the Fosno, we've got NFL Ford Hall of Fame fan Terrence Young, and our creator, executive producer, Brandon Trax Hyatt. Phyllis, how you doing tonight, guys?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. That was a great intro. That got me going. That was something from every sport. But I have to say, seeing Kaner score in their last highlight there took a little bit out of me today. I'm still reeling.
Yeah, I hear you, David. It's bittersweet. Definitely a bittersweet night for all Blackhawk fans, all Chicago sports fans. Friends, please feel free to chime in with your thoughts, your comments, and your questions for David as we roll on. Of course, you know David, as David Letterman would say, this next superstar guest needs no introduction. He's a former Indiana Sports Writer of the Year, a former Sun-Times and Tribune sports writer and columnist, and of course, co-host of the widely popular morning drive show for The Score, Mully and Haugh. David Haugh, the voice of the Chicago sports fan. It's our pleasure to have you, David. And before we dive into all things Bears, can you kind of give our audience a little bit of background of how you kind of fell in love with sports growing up in your hometown of North Judson, Indiana? Where did your passion for sports really first begin?
Well, the town only had 1,700 people, so there was little else to do. And so we lived Friday Night Lights, the series. We lived Hoosiers, the movie, because our town was Hickory and maybe not quite that big, not as many stoplights. Because I think that when you grow up in that environment, you gravitate towards sports. And really, it was the best way to grow up. So I grew up in a small town. I played 3 sports. I was best at football, and that was my avenue, not out necessarily of the small town, but it certainly opened up a lot of doors for me. I got a scholarship and played at Ball State. I always wanted to incorporate what I thought I did well, which was right, and what I loved to do, which was play sports. And so I went to Ball State and got an internship at the South Bend Tribune. And I was one summer before my senior year, and I fell in love with journalism. I always was a newspaper junkie. I went down that path. Guys, I had a really good senior year at Ball State. I was considering maybe flirting with the idea of trying out, after being all conference and this and that. And I was in the California Raisin Bowl on ESPN, national TV audience. I was the deep safety. I chased the wide receiver from Fresno State into the end zone, the final 20 yards. And you know what? There was a lot of separation, and it was in that moment I knew I was destined for journalism, not the sports writing it was, and sports writing it would be. I went to Northwestern grad school, ended up at the South Bend Tribune, covering Notre Dame. I loved my time in South Bend, spent 11 years there. But this month now, in March of 2023, I've been in Chicago for 20 years covering the Chicago sports scene. I came here to cover the Bears as a beat writer. It was the call of my life, the opportunity I never saw coming. And Dan McGrath called and hired me to come over to work for the Chicago Tribune. And from there, I left for the Score full-time 5 years ago. And I just am privileged and lucky to be in the right place at the right time and have a lot of great people around me.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Whether people listen to you on the Score 5 days a week or whether they read your writing, your passion for whatever you're covering comes through in your writing style. I mean, it's informative driven, but it's energetic. It's a riveting read. No matter whether you're covering the Bears or you're writing a column about a high school athlete in Chicago. Can you talk about your writing influences? Who's inspired you? Both David on the writing side, and then also as you've made the transition over into sports talk radio.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing about writing is, and I appreciate you saying that because it's what I did most naturally and it's what I felt like I was best at. Mm-hmm. I think that you've got to have an approach that is consistent, whether you're writing for, my high school newspaper, the Ball State Daily News, the South Bend Tribune, or the Chicago Tribune. Everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a story to tell. And you look at that and you respect that. And like everyone on this panel tonight, night, I have to think like I could take you for 20 minutes to the side, interview you, and write 800 words and make you sound like the most interesting person in the room because to someone you are. And so you take that approach to whether you're writing columns, whether you're writing, features, whatever the case may be, and you're always going to do it. You're always going to do the story justice. There is no story too small, and there's no story that is going to overwhelm you. So I had the same approach whether I was sitting down with a high school athlete or a Division III, basketball player from St. Francis, whatever the case may be, during the Tribune, or Game 7 in Cleveland. 22 minutes to write 600 words for a column that somebody's going to pull out of a time capsule one day. Okay, you got the same approach. You write what you see. You then, if you're writing your opinion, you tell them what you feel and what you think and then you describe. And you always do the reader justice, hopefully that way. And you always respect everyone's right to disagree with you, but also everyone's right to tell their story and have it kind of, their moment, if you will, if you're doing a feature or a profile about them. But I love writing. I miss it. In terms of influences, there's a lot of guys over the years. I met Rick Tellender in grad school. There was a columnist at the South Bend Tribune when I grew up called Bill Moore. I mean, all kinds of guys influence you along the way. And radio, I just been lucky. Radio, basically, you get up every morning early, you report to work, you say hi to Mully, you drink your coffee, and then you talk until you think of something to say.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And you guys do a great job of that every morning too, man. I listen to you guys in the morning on my way to work, and just your passion, and you can tell that you're passionate about everything you guys talk about, and it really shines through. So definitely fantastic, man. Great job.
Thanks. The one thing about, morning radio is that I think that, and I do not want to come across as an expert on it, because like I said, I'm always going to feel like I'm a newspaper guy or a writer behind the microphone. But the one thing that is, I think, consistent with whether it's we start at 5:30. We have the pregame show at 5, and whether it's in that hour and when it's early, you can't really let people know that it's that early. It's got to be like you have to somebody waking up wants to know, number one, this might be the 20 minutes they have to listen to you every morning, and they may have that 20-minute segment, and if it is, you got to bring it. And you got to bring it that 20 minutes, and you got to bring it next segment. Every segment matters. So what I likened it to is when I was writing 5 columns a week for the Tribune for the 10 years that I was privileged to have that job, is like I wrote for assuming that, okay, let's pretend somebody's coming through O'Hare, and they've got an hour and a half between flights. They go to the gift store and they overpay for coffee, and they overpay for the candy bar that costs $3.95, and they buy a Tribune that's probably overpriced too. But if they buy the Tribune and they're reading you and they're basing their opinion of the paper on what you write, if they're basing your opinion on the paper and what you write, then you want to do that justice. So you've got to bring it every column. You don't take any days off. And so when you get there at 5 o'clock in the morning, if you start at 5:30, you got to have energy. It's all about presentation. It's all about bringing the juice, and you've got to be excited about what you're talking about. Because you know what, guys, let's face it. I'm talking about Chicago sports for a living. I'm not laying brick. This is going to be, there's no heavy lifting involved. So you've got to remember that every day that you're doing a job that a lot of people who are listening to you would love to do. And could probably do it as well as you are. They're passionate about Chicago sports. So don't tell me how tired you are and how little you slept. Tell me what you think about the Blackhawks trading Patrick Kane, the best player in history. Tell me what you think about the Bulls, not being able to hit the 3-point shot. Tell me what you think about the Bears and who they're going to draft, and do it with a little bit of energy.
Right. Yeah. No doubt, David. I mean, I think that's, that's exactly it. I mean, I think when you bring that passion and anything you do, right? I mean, you as a journalist, being on television as well, being on the radio, it definitely will show, right? So when you're bringing that passion, your audience is listening to you, they see you, whatever it is, they know, they know that passion is in you. It's real, and people gravitate to that. So, like any walk of life, that's what you want to do, right? You always want to bring whatever you do, you want to do it the best you can do each and every time you do it. So
that's good advice, Terrence. And I think the one thing too to remember is that you don't. I mean, I am that way because maybe you are compelling yourself to have a little bit more energy than you would because you have an obligation professionally to do that. But also, it's kind of natural. I mean, you want to be yourself. You can't be somebody you're not. And I think sometimes you hear, whether it's in TV and I don't want to criticize anybody, but I think that you it's hard to not try to sometimes take on a role that forces you into situations where it's not as natural. And eventually in a market like Chicago, that will be revealed. And if you're phony, you're going to be exposed. So I learned a long time ago, or at least I hope to, sometimes for instance, I'll give you an example of my own situation. Sometimes I am too serious. People will say, Haugh, you're way too serious. Loosen up. And, come on, man. Stop being so, whatever. And okay, good. You got me there. And other times, maybe you're trying to be a little bit too cavalier about something. Do what comes naturally, because you know what? It's easier to defend.
Right.
And if you're not trying to be something you're not, you're going to have to remember about what you were trying to be, if that makes any sense. So authenticity, I think, in this market, in Chicago of all places, is going to be something that works.
For sure. And it's going to be long lasting too, right, David? Like that's long lasting because you're being yourself each and every day. It's not a performance. It's you.
It is. And that's why it feels like less of a job and more of a passion, because it just is an extension. Let's face it. If I were not doing this, I would be following this. It's like the Luke Combs song. What would you? I would be doing this if I wasn't doing this. And not that I'm going to compare myself to Luke Combs because I can't sing, but you get the gist. Is that you feel fortunate to be doing something that people love in a city that is crazy about it. And I would be following the Hawks and the Cubs and the Bears and everyone else, just like I normally would. I might follow a little more college sports than we talk about, but I think that you would passionate about it, and you have to bring that to your job.
Hey, you know what I appreciate about your passion and willingness to get up at 3:30 in the morning is, you haven't forgot that you're from one of those flyover states. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, when you go through the town that you live in, North Jetson, if you blink, you miss it. And but the thing about it is, though, when I'm in my vehicle, at sometimes when I'm on my way to work, the 500 something episodes you've been on, whatever, it seems like sometimes you're in my vehicle. Like seriously, like you don't over talk yourself to where like I can't understand you because I know your vocabulary, South Bend college, whatever, exemplary, you know what I mean? But you still talk like the guy that's getting ready to go lay the brick is on that same level, and you haven't forgot where you came from. And when we're talking about Chicago sports, that's what's important, because we're blue collar. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It is one thing that is somewhat cliche, but true. You can take the kid out of the small town, obviously, but I'm not sure you can take the small town out of the kid. And I've never been ashamed or sheepish about being from small town Indiana. I think that you can make a couple of choices as you get into the big cities. The thing I respect about Chicago and the city and the sports fans especially, so proud for people who have lived there all their lives, same neighborhood. They went to games when they were 12 at the same stadiums, and they inherent that pride, and it's like contagious with what neighborhoods they know the same people from the same blocks. I am always going to be maybe an interloper to some people, because even though I've been here 20 years, I grew up in Indiana, and that's okay, because I think it goes back to what we were talking about. Just be who you are. I'm going to be a small town kid from Indiana, but you know what? I love it here. I love what I'm doing, and I can understand what I'm seeing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, or to have an opinion that Kyle Davidson is taking the Hawks in a direction that might be a little bit of a concern to some people. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand that all this tanking and bottoming out in Chicago is a bit troublesome. And this is not the golden age of Chicago sports. So you just kind of be who you are.
Absolutely.
Well said.
David Haugh, the superstar co-host of Mully and Haugh Mornings on the Score. David, thank you again for your time. Let's dive into it, because you just mentioned the hot story the entire city's been talking about over the last 36 hours, the trading of the greatest Chicago Blackhawk of all time, also the trading of the greatest U.S.-born hockey player of all time, too. You just mentioned it, David. Is this just another sign that the Blackhawks are now in complete rebuild mode here and trying to get as much as they can for the skeleton pieces left from the glory days?
It confirms what we feared and confirmed the inevitable. On Tuesday afternoon, February 28th, it was the death of hockey relevance in Chicago. And it pains me to say that because I am a Hawks fan. My son played hockey. I wasn't a big hockey fan growing up in Indiana. When I came to Chicago, I learned that I liked the sport. And then when my son played it, I learned that I loved the sport. I love watching hockey as much as I watch any other sport, but maybe college football. But so what happened with Kyle Davidson is that he went down a path and that maybe Stan Bowman helped lead him there, but they chose a lane and bottoming out was what they wanted to do. So now Patrick Kane going to the Rangers, wearing number 88 at Madison Square Garden is going to look very strange. And I don't know that I was wholly prepared for how sad I felt. And then I got a little bit ticked off about it. I understood it, but you're getting draft picks that are essentially lottery tickets. There's not a living, breathing hockey player that necessarily is worth getting to know because he's not going to be here for more than 5 minutes. And by the time the Hawks are good again, then it's going to be 5 more years. Who's got the time? Now, if they get Connor Bedard, the phenom in the draft this summer, let's do this again. And let's talk about where my hockey enthusiasm is because then it will be revived. But it's going to take something that dramatic for it to happen. Patrick Kane, the most accomplished Chicago pro athlete since Michael Jordan left town, an ex-Blackhawk, and to me, he was the best player in franchise history. I know I am of a certain age. I don't remember Bobby Hull, but I'm going to stick with Patrick Kane because he was on his way to retiring as the greatest Blackhawk ever, and so he's going to retire in somebody else's sweater more than likely.
Yeah.
Amen, David. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And David, the big news today coming out of the NFL, the police have charged Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who's Mel Kiper's top-ranked overall draft prospect, with reckless driving and racing in connection to the January 15th crash that killed teammate Devin Willock and a University of Georgia team staff recruiter named Chandler LaCroix. With this, he was obviously, a lot of people were projecting him, the Bears, to take him if they kept the number 1 pick. Do you see the Bears now completely moving away from him and moving maybe to Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson if David Poles decides to keep that number 1 pick?
It's very early in the process. There's a lot of information yet to get, but it doesn't look doesn't look promising for Jalen Carter. I think we also need to remember in the context of talking about what this means to the NFL draft and teams like the Bears at the top of it. There were 2 young lives lost because of this reckless driving. This was a tragedy in Athens, Georgia, and this is a tragedy that now has taken on different implications because of the football draft implications. But Jalen Carter is accused of being part of something, an irresponsible decision that contributed to the death of 2 young people, and that is something you cannot ever lose sight of when we're talking about the draft status. Now, that is separate, and that is a legal matter in Georgia, which he went back to take care of today. The timing of it, which was very strange because it's almost as if they waited until he was front and center before they served him the arrest warrant. But now he's going back to deal with that. From a football perspective, if I'm the Chicago Bears, this changes everything about my thought process. This changes everything about how low I may go in the draft because of my desire to get an impact rookie defensive lineman. Maybe it's only Will Anderson, and if it's only Will Anderson, then you might not be as willing to go lower in the draft. Jalen Carter and Will Anderson gave you an either-or proposition. You might not have that any longer because I don't know that the risk would be worth the reward would be worth the risk. With Jalen Carter, is he going to be eligible? Will he be reliable? Will he be available? You don't know these things, and right now, when the questions outnumber the answers at the NFL Combine, typically you're wise to stay away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would concur with that, David. Again, obviously condolences to those that lost their lives and the legal ramifications. That's obviously the separate piece, but obviously it's a huge piece to all of this, right? When you talk about Jalen Carter and you talk about Georgia and you talk about the national championship that they just came off winning, and everything that occurred with that, timing is very interesting to all of this, but it is what it is, and this is now something that all the NFL, and especially our Chicago Bears, are going to have to navigate through and see, what they want to do. I think they're, at the end of the day, the Bears are going to make the wise decision in terms of which way they go in which direction. I fully anticipate the Bears trading that number 1 pick, and I know we'll probably get into that a little bit anyway, but I think that's more than likely going to happen. Now, who their trade partner is will depend upon who that availability will be at that next slot. But again, it was a bombshell of a day for sure. Across the sports world, because obviously no one knew or anticipated or knew about this coming about. So.
It broke at 9:00. We were on the air trying to process it live and trying to keep all this into perspective. 2 things worth remembering before we move on from Jalen Carter. Number one, it's very difficult for a Bears regime with Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus both Tuesday in Indianapolis espousing the virtues of character and how important the culture is in your building and what that means in terms of the players that you want to put on your roster, and then ignore that seemingly if you were to draft somebody as high as Jalen Carter would be drafted. But then you counter it with this. When Ryan Poles was asked about your prototypical defensive tackle, defensive lineman, what did he say? Violence, length, tenacity.
Right.
Violence, length, tenacity. The Volt
got all 3.
Okay, so I think that they're going to eventually do the right thing, but this also just underscores the contradiction that football guys face sometimes when they are seeking guys who they describe as wanting to be violent, tenacious, and then they're going to make a character judgment, which I think they should and can't ignore, but it just should remind us to be careful about the way we talk about the traits that you're looking for in these elite athletes.
Sure. Well said.
Absolutely. David, obviously before we get to draft season, obviously we have free agency season opening up here later this March 15th. We had a call today, David. What's your prediction on what Ryan Poles' first move in free agency would be? And then also the second part of that question, what should his first move be?
Okay, well, I think the free agent priorities, I believe, and a lot of people can argue with this because you have Justin Fields and he does need weapons, but he also needs protection. So if I'm going into free agency, I'm building my priority list from the ball on out. So defensively, I feel good about my secondary, but you know what? The front 7 stinks. So you've got to rebuild. Every position is up for grabs. I would go after defensive tackles. I would look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Hargraves, as a possibility, but I also would want maybe possibly somebody a little bit younger, maybe entering the prime. There's not going to be a perfect scenario. This isn't a deep free agent class, but I think you go in looking for the 3 technique, and then maybe you can address that in free agency so you don't have to in the draft. I also would look on the other side of the ball. Your offensive tackles, Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco, might have to overpay. That's a reality of free agency, but I think that you may be willing to do that. Orlando Brown Jr., if he's not tagged as priority number 1, he would be a great fit with the Chiefs. Ryan Poles would know all about him. But I just think that you have to remember building from the ball on out and then maybe weaponry. Now, I'm a guy. This is my meatball thought of the night and my meatball thought of the offseason. If Saquon Barkley is there, you pursue him. If Saquon Barkley
100%.
Yep.
Agreed.
Sorry, Trax.
$15 million a year. I'm sorry. I know that's not a premium position, but he is a premium elite player. So if the Bears could get Saquon Barkley and he's open to playing in Chicago, a pretty historic franchise. He's playing for one now. I think you consider that because he is Saquon Barkley. Can you imagine Barkley behind Justin Fields? It would be a big game.
Yeah, pick your poison, right?
Yeah.
Right.
With a brand new offensive line, watch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got money to spend. And David, to your point, I agree. My football philosophy is games are won and lost in the trenches. And I know it sounds cliche-ish, but that's what it's about. It's the O-line and the D-line. Bottom line, and then you build it out. So I love that phrase of building it from the ball out. That's perfect. I totally agree.
I would hope that there is an interior lineman. Let's face it, they've got more cap space than anybody. They've got more money than any other team. So I don't know that this is the offseason to be frugal if you are Ryan Poles. Now you can't be foolish, but I think that you can go out and you can be aggressive. And if you have one, let's face it, if you're shopping for your family for Christmas, you're going to be smart and you're going to have a budget and you're going to want to get everything for all the kids are treated equally. But there's going to be one thing you splurge on, right? There's going to be that thing you say, well, you know what? It is Christmas. I'm going to overspend here. You know what, Ryan Poles, this is your Christmas. Okay? Yes. This is your holiday season. If Saquon Barkley is the recliner you always wanted to buy, buy it. It'll be very comfortable.
Absolutely.
David, who's your go-to wide receiver free agencies right now? Who's your top 3 that if you could get them, you'd go for?
Sorry, guys, I lost you for a second. Repeat the question.
Top 3 free agent wide receivers right now. Who would you be gunning for right now? Your Ryan Poles.
Whoa, boy. I would have to look at the list. It's not very deep. I don't know that I could go 3 deep. Could you go 4 deep? And I would turn it around and ask you guys. Didn't they already kind of address this because it is such a shallow free agent class, wide receiver wise, that they went out and got Chase Claypool? Are you happy with that? Because what I would do if I were Ryan Poles is this is where I would maybe be a little more conservative. I would wait for the salary cap cut market and see how many guys are out there. Keenan Allen. I don't think that Mike Evans is going to be available, but a guy like that, I don't know, is Brandon Cooks available in a trade? Could you swing that? What you need, what I'm looking for is a veteran presence to complement Claypool and Darnell Mooney coming back. I don't know that the number 1 out there is attainable. And I don't know how I feel about DeAndre Hopkins being a guy that would be a target for somebody because of his age and he's a little bit high maintenance. But if somebody is there that could help your passing game, I would supplement that with an affordable risk.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to David Haugh, the superstar co-host of Mully and Haugh, The Score, Monday through Friday drive time. David, talking about the historic terms of this free agency season, this Bears draft, how important is it for Ryan Poles to score touchdown picks with every selection for this team to be competitive over the next 5 years? I mean, we've had big drafts before. We've never had something like this since I think you got to go all the way back in terms of the 65 draft, or I'm sorry, the 65 draft to have this kind of opportunity. Will they find the Bears 10 years their competitive level of how Ryan Poles can execute his game plan here over the next month?
It's a great question. This is big for Ryan Poles as much as it is for the Bears. This is as significant to his career as it is for their future. I think both are kind of related. I think number 1, quickly, you got to look at it as a 4-year plan for Justin Fields. That's when you have to decide what he's going to be. And you know what? Realistically, in Chicago, in the NFL, you should be able to rebuild in 4 years. So don't look at every pick like it's going to define your career. Don't look at every signing as the one that is going to put you over the top. Have a plan and believe in it and project it as if you have as much confidence as he sounded like he had Tuesday in Indianapolis. I was impressed by his level of composure. I have been impressed by his degree of confidence. Act like you've been there before with a degree of authority. And so don't have the anxiety set in like, oh my gosh, if I miss on this pick, I'm going to get fired in 3 years. You can't operate that way. Yeah. So be aggressive and balance that sort of, you don't want to have hubris. You don't want to have that ego enter in, but you also don't want to, you can't play scared because that's that's when you make bad decisions and that's when you become tentative.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Like somebody who's done that before.
Absolutely. And I mean, when Poles came in, this wasn't going to be an overnight process, right? Everyone realistically knew that. I know there's, Bears fan and want to sit there, we're going to win a Super Bowl, 12, 13 games. No, we're not going to win 12, 13 games this past season. I mean, everyone, heart of hearts, knew that. It's a process, and you got to allow Poles to do the right things to build this team. And this is the next step. We've got capital, we've got draft picks. This is the next step for us to get to that next level. But it is a process. And again, to your point, David, don't play scared. And I don't think Poles will. I mean, the guy he's built for this. And I mean, just the things that he's said and he's done already, I'm super excited to see what happens in this offseason.
And last thing, and I'll tie up our two stories here together, is that when you talk about Ryan Poles and what his approach should be, might want to avoid a high-risk situation like Jalen Carter, only because if it backfires, it could derail so many other smart decisions that you do make. So it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a more prudent approach to drafting and to signing, that he stays away, because let's go back to his first offseason. Larry Ogunjobi didn't work out well. He took a risk on Ryan Bates with the offer sheet. It didn't pan out. These are the kind of things you learn from, and it wouldn't surprise me if he learns the lesson that, okay, maybe that isn't a swing and I shouldn't try to hit this home run. I'll take the triple or the stand-up double.
Right. Good call.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been David Haugh, co-host of Mully and Haugh on the Score. David, for our audience, for everybody on our panel, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor and privilege talking to you tonight. We appreciate it.
Guys, you were great. I hope everything works out and audio-wise, and I really appreciate your time tonight. Great question, good conversation.
Absolutely, David. I appreciate
Thank you,
time,
sir.
man. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
Joining us on this Football Night in Chicago edition of Monsters of the Madhouse. Gentlemen, before we continue, major news from Northwest Indiana. Coming this Friday, you can enjoy ice cream, guys, in a whole new exciting way. Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor is sure to take your taste buds on a wondrous adventure in many different flavors. But the delectable delights, fellas, don't stop there. Friends, try Serendipity's ultra appetizing specialty grilled cheese sandwiches, located at 120 North Boulevard in Griffith, Indiana. It's always summertime in Serendipity, opening this Friday, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be open 7 days a week. Ice cream, boys, has never been this delicious. Clint Campbell, my friends, along with Mike Fosnell, host of the exciting, hilarious podcast, First and 10 with Foz, and also the Hall of Famer, one of the all-time great NFL fans, Terrence Young, joining us as we roll on here in the second half of tonight's show. Hey, fellas, if I could get your thoughts on something that David was hitting on, Terrence and Foz, about the importance of the offensive line. We know we've got to rebuild that. You brought up that point, Foz. How realistic is it to think that we can go ahead and make a swing at Orlando Brown Jr.? He's a guy right now, Sport Tracks, Terrence, projects his market value is about $22.4 million a year, and it will take about $112 million in 5 years to sign him. Is that a realistic target for him?
Dude, I think we need so much right now. I don't know if we go after that big of contract, given the fact that we need 10 players easily. We need a new offensive line, new defensive line, wide receivers. I mean, we need the whole boat, man. I mean, dropping $25 million on offensive lineman who he's had some stories coming out of Kansas City too. So, I mean, doesn't seem like much of a locker room guy, which I think the Bears need a locker room guy right now. So, he's a great player, but at this point, given the Bears situation, I would pass, and maybe someone like him next year after we establish ourselves after this draft.
Yeah, Trex.
I agree with Foz. I think it really comes down to the needs, and we have a lot of them, right? I mean, you don't finish with the worst record in the NFL and everything look, rosy. You need 2 or 3 players. You're, 2-3 players away. We need, like Foz says, we need the 9 to 10 players. We need to build an abundance of quality players that are going to come in and are going to compete and are going to bring us to that next level. So I would pass too. I mean, again, you're not going to get him cheap, right? We know that. So you're going to have to spend. And I think the amount that you'd have to spend for him is going to be more than what we want to do.
Big Cat's in the house.
Big Cat.
What up, fella? Sorry about that. I was having a little trouble talking.
No trouble at all. Ladies and gentlemen, is Terrence Big Cat Metcalf, the former All-American from Ole Miss, and the man who, of course, taught his Pro Bowl son, DK Metcalf, almost everything he knows about football. Big Cat, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. Appreciate y'all having me, man.
We were just talking about we need to get DK to come to the Bears and help us out on the receiving end there, front.
Hey, look, I don't want to say nothing. That's one of
you got that inner air. I think you got a connection with him. Maybe you could help us out.
Hey, that's one of his secret passions now. He loved to play while I played. So
there you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
We get DK at receiver.
We need Dad in there to help us out.
T back on that old line.
Man,
We'll be
how's
good.
it going tonight, though, fella?
Good, man.
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, man. Well, I really do appreciate y'all having me on, man. I do.
Hey, I tell you what, the pleasure's all ours, Big Cat. And Big Cat, we've been talking about the Bears, what the Bears are thinking about doing on the offensive line here as the free agency season opens up later this month. And, you know, you have a better perspective than any of us. I mean, you've been in the trenches. You know, as you look at this team's offensive line needs, where do you think GM Ryan Poles needs to focus on improving on the O-line that, which, despite all of its flaws, Big Cat, did produce the NFL's top-ranked rushing offense in 2022, but where does Ryan Poles need to focus his attention on to strengthening this offensive line, and most importantly, provide adequate protection for Justin Fields?
Well, when you got a young quarterback like Justin Fields and a mobile guy like that, to me, the best thing you can do is make sure you solidify not just the tackles. I know everybody look at the tackle position, but your middle is very important because what do people want to do? They want to compress the pocket, and a lot of O-line coaches are teaching guys, not back when we played, when we used to quick set, catch, and punch through a defender. Now guys are sitting back because you're running so much RPO offense, so you're giving the D-line way more space than when you watch the old game, how guys attacked on the offensive line. So I feel like it's always the middle that needs to be secure because tackles are always athletic, and we got a young mobile quarterback that can move around in the pocket and make a rush in miss. It's hard to do that when your middle collapses. So if anything, you know, and I'm talking in general, man, like, because y'all know I've been following the Seahawks for the past 4 seasons. This is my 5th one coming up. I watch the Bears. I love the Bears and can't lie, but you know I've been on my son for so tight. But anytime like you got a mobile young quarterback like that, man, it's always the middle that I will always start with when I'm building my offensive line because if we can secure the pocket in the middle, he'll make those outside edge rushes miss time to time.
Absolutely. And, you know, you look at, looking at DK's situation, we just saw what Geno Smith could do when he got adequate protection, when he had an offensive line that gave him the opportunities really to put that offense in motion, you know, play in and play out. How much better what more can we even see from Justin Fields, as good as he is, if we can put him in a situation where he can run this offense without, you know, having to be worried about, you know, getting hit every other play. What kind of, with a good offensive line, what kind of jump can he make here in year 3, Big Cat?
Well, it all depends on like the weapons that they put around him. When you got a young, talented guy that can use his feet, and we saw that from time to time. So nobody's gonna ever question him what he can do with his feet. But you got quality receivers around him. Your running back because your running back is gonna always, like you see, we run the ball in Chicago. That has been one thing that Chicago has been known for, is being able to run the football. But to have a talent like that at the quarterback position, when you look at my time, and I'll go back to my time, and not knocking any other guys, we didn't have that type of talent at the quarterback position. Now, we had some talented quarterbacks. Don't get me twisted. We have some throw the ball, but to have that total package, the way the NFL needs now, and man, the sky's the limit for Justin Fields with the right pieces around him. And again, I say we start with the center, and you got to have 2 solid guards that does not allow that pocket to collapse on him. And man, he's a special guy. I mean, I know, you know, people going to talk about mistakes and miscues that he make, but we know the game can go any kind of way with pressure, and especially being a young guy, man. It's just the game is too advanced. You know what I'm saying? And so you and I, you know, I'm a former player, man, so I don't like talking. It's not negative talk, but it's just speaking truth. If you solidify the pocket for him, we all know that he can throw the ball down the field. We know he can run the RPO game. really well. He reads the defense really well. He proved
Mm-hmm.
that. But man, with a young guy, you can't. That middle has to be solidified. So I'm gonna say center, and both guards, and it's gonna be amazing what Justin Field can do.
Sure.
You know what, Terrence? I got a question for you, man. When that day that you saw the draft, and we drafted Justin Fields, the plethora of all of the quarterbacks that you blocked for.
Yeah.
What was the reaction? Let me see what your face looked like when they said Justin Fields, Chicago Bears quarterback. Really?
Finally a guy.
Yeah.
Because again, man, listen, my quarterback, Rex Grossman, yes, Rex can sling the ball, but he wasn't a runner. Cal Orton, yes, Cal can throw the football. In my opinion, I thought Cal was a special guy. But again, when you draft a guy like Rex Grossman in the first round, he is the guy that you got to put out there. I was one of the young guys that during Jim Miller's, the end of his career. And again, he took us to the playoff the year before I got in there. So man, we had some talented guys. But when you have a total package guy, man, if Ryan puts the right pieces around him, you can really see the monsters of the midway come back around, man. I truly believe that.
Right. No doubt. I mean, it's like a jigsaw puzzle at the end of the day, right? Right. See, I mean, you try to, you got the quarterback in place, young quarterback, a talent that we've never seen in Chicago Bears football. And then if you can couple that, just like you said, with the talent around him. So from the offensive side, starting at the ball, starting at that center, like you said, the guards, and out to the tackles. And then, you get him a couple of weapons around him so he can throw to, so that offense starts clicking. And the thing is, it all starts up front. I mean, that's the position you know and love. I mean, it starts up front. You give them that protection, and the rest you'll see you'll see the positive effects of all that. So that's the key. That's the key. I agree.
And that was like my problem with that trade that they had back in the day for Russell Wilson. Is if the Bears got Russell Wilson, we didn't have DK Metcalf. We didn't have, Lockett to throw the ball to. Russell would have thrown the ball to himself, It's like it wouldn't have worked out, But now we got Fields, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So yeah, just an interesting question about what you thought about it, before and after. So
yes, sir. Like I agree with you. Like certain situations you don't have to put yourself in. Again, I think the world of Russ, but again, you look at like Denver. Like what the struggles they had on the offensive line and the position they put Russell in. I know everybody look at like some of the mistakes and issues that he had, but every one of us know when you're watching the offense starts on the offensive line. I mean, that's why I'm a head coach here at Home Community College here in Mississippi. Every O-line I've ever coached, man, that's one thing I harp on. O-line, D-line builds the team. Your defense, you don't have a solid. Urlacher couldn't be Brian Urlacher without that defensive front in front of him. Right. You had Tank Johnson, Tommy Harris, Adewale Agunye, Alex Brown. You know what I'm saying? Those guys during my time, those guys.
It was my squad.
Michael Boone.
I just got chills on that.
That was my squad.
we had some dogs. We had some animals.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take away from Brian's talent because that was a special person, and nobody looked at his commitment to himself. And, we talk about LeBron and taking care of the body. Brian did that back in 02, 03 during my time,
Right.
And so it's amazing when they bring it all together, man. And just I love Chicago. I love the fans. I love everything about it. The Kalen, I want him to spend his time wherever he wants to spend his time, but he's like, man, Dad, I would love to play where you play.
We would love for him to play where he played. This is all true.
Yeah, doesn't mean he doesn't love Seattle because he does.
But, for sure.
As a career progresses, God has other plans for you, and for him to tell me that, I'm like, man, I appreciate it, because I would love to see it myself. I mean, it truly
Nah, that's
would.
cool.
The crazy
That's cool.
world of the NFL, you just might nowadays, my friend. You just
You
Right.
never know.
Friends, we are talking to the All-American from Ole Miss, former Bears star, Terrence Big Cat Metcalf. Big Cat, you were talking about, for the Bears in terms of building this offensive line, they needed to do at the guard spots. With free agency season opening up on March 15th, Big Cat, are there any of those guys that you see in this free agent class that might be really good fits for the Bears? It seems like it's really guard heavy from what I see. Guys like Roger Safford of Buffalo, Matt Pryor of the Colts, Justin Puig of Arizona. Do you think there's a guy at that spot that would be a really good fit for this Bears O-line?
Man, I'll be honest with you, man. I just took over a head coach's job at this college in Mississippi, man. I really haven't had time to focus on needs of the draft and everything of that nature, man. So I certainly do apologize. I wouldn't be able to
Don't worry.
we're all busy, bro. We're all busy.
Yeah. Especially building the team for myself, man. It's my first opportunity, and so I want to make sure I'm doing it the right way, instilling the right things in these young men, so that
That's awesome, man.
to get where I got.
Sure, you will, sir.
Man, so I definitely apologize if I can't really truly answer that question.
No problem at all, Big Cat. Hey, but if you would like to, let's talk about your team. Let's talk about the team you're putting together too. And like you say, you're building the groundwork for a program that you hope can, produce not only outstanding young men on and off the field, but have success together as a team and family.
Well, any and everybody, when you're getting into the coaching rank, man, I have 6 kids and my wife, man. And so I wanted to be on the level where I had flexibility, where I can get to a Bears game when I want to, or get to Seattle. So I'm the head coach of a community college here in Mississippi. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Last Chance U, but it's not the last opportunity for these men, because they can be re-recruited. And in talking to these college coaches, with the portal coming around, the junior college recruiting route is a fit for college coaches. And so, man, we got some really, really talented kids. One of the young men we have that stands out we got a young man by the name of it's Malik Willis' little brother. He's a wide receiver. His name is Marquis Willis. He's a 6'3", 195-pound wide receiver, man. That is phenomenal. That was placed here with us, and he's being highly recruited by everybody. So we have those type of guys where you talk about last chance. No, this is your second time around to be recruited. And so teaching these guys, again, man, to think highly of themselves and to be a student first and an athlete second, but bring it all together. It's time for them to be recruited. And so, that's been my day since January the 5th, since they brought me in as the head coach, man, instilling the right things in these guys' mind and letting them know that they're not stacking fiddle to anything. God has purpose for one of us, and it just so happened their road is this way.
No, that's awesome, Big Cat, man, and kudos to you. And that's awesome. Congratulations. Obviously, those young men are getting taught by the best right by you. So that's good. Those life lessons, you know what I mean, on and off the field. So that's great.
Absolutely. In a time when our young people need great role models and coaches, Big Cat, you are an inspiration. And thanks for everything you're doing with that team. And we can't wait to see what this team looks like. Is this the hardest thing for you as a coach? Just the wait till you can get your team all together, get the guys all together in summer practice, and really started building both not only just a team but also a family?
Well, really, one of the hardest things, man, is just making sure the guys that you have in your program does things the right way and represent the institution, their family, themselves on campus and off campus. So that's the thing that I'm really focusing on. You got in junior college, some guys think it's like the 13th grade or a high school opportunity, but it's the same as any other kid that's going to be a freshman or a senior at the University of Illinois. You have to take approach to it, and so it is a hard part because you got to stay on them consistently until you build that knowledge and that understanding of what it truly means to be a college football player, man. Because again, a lot of these individuals are kids who are gonna have the low GPA and the low test score when it comes to ACT or SAT, and getting them to be motivated. That is what I love, man. That is my passion. A coach did it for me back when I was in middle school, and man, it led me to 7 seasons with the Chicago Bears. And I'm just being honest with y'all, man. A coach, a man that I was able to give my mind to and my heart to, led me to the Chicago Bears. And that's what I try to share with the kids, man. It just takes one individual for you to listen to. You know, all of us has had an individual in our lives that has taught us something that woke us up. You know, and that's
Absolutely.
one I try to be. I feel like God called me to do that. You know, and I feel blessed to be able to do that with the 65 individuals that's a part of our program. You know.
Amen, Big Cat.
That's awesome.
Lucky to have you, sir.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all. Truly, thank y'all for real.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Terrence Big Cat Metcalf, head football coach at Coahoma Community College in his home state of Mississippi, the former Chicago Bears star and Ole Miss All-American. Big Cat, it's been an honor and privilege. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you guys again for having me.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Big Cat.
Good luck this season, sir.
Yeah, best of luck this season.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
That's a pretty cool guest on tonight, right?
Yeah, Terrence Big Cat.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's
Unbelievable.
so exciting to hear from him. Like,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the Bears players that I talked to that were from, you know, our generation that we watched that grew up 06, whatever, and whatnot. All of them now are like reaching out to the community and they're coaching in what this or that, or you know, scrambling. I remember when J-Mac, he pulled over the side of the road. And he finished the podcast for us. He jumped in for somebody that wasn't there. He said, "Man, I just finished the practice." You know, it's so cool.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, think about those kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you got J-Mag, you got Big Cat. You know, these guys are coaching you. It's like, you know, I mean, you don't have to go much further than them. You know, for the credibility, right? Like, I think they got that credibility factor already. You know, so,
no,
you can just add DK Metcalf's dad onto the entire roster. It's like, now you got another notch under your belt with that.
And then my high school was like this old guy, like 5'7", silver hair with a whistle. Let's go.
On the verge of retirement, just hating his life. Get Johnny Knox on the show. There we go.
There you go.
I've been trying.
That's
a hard
right there.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Trax Hyatt, the creator, executive producer of Chicago Sports Podcast and Monsters of the Madhouse. He is always working the phone. And I know we've got some big ones coming up here. Trax, brother, can we talk about a blockbuster guest we have coming down the road here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we can. It's just a matter of the thing with him is he makes a lot of moves. He just recently got back from Europe. Same thing with Bear Mysterio was asking earlier about Knox. He was over in Europe. You know, I don't know what the heck's going on over there, man, but them boys like spending time over there. And so the guest we're talking about coming up, Cleet, you know, he just got back from there and he said, give me a couple weeks. Let me, you know, digress, and then he'll be ready for us. So yeah.
Well, folks, we'll leave the spoiler at this. It's gonna be a blockbuster. It's gonna be a star of stars. Like Brandon Trax Hyatt is always delivering for us. Hey, fellas, really quickly, you know, March is no time to be without a safe, reliable vehicle. If you need a trusted friend to find the best car for your budget, guys, look no further than Budget Cars in Michigan City, Indiana. Dustin Johnson's team will get you back on the road in style. 3 generations serving friends and family since 1972. Call Budget Cars at 1-219-874-5180 or 219-873-3988. Gentlemen, this has been a blockbuster show, Football Night in Chicago. Guys, anybody have any final thoughts before we call the show?
Awesome guest, man. What a great night.
Super fun.
It was fun, man.
Awesome night.
Haugh
And hey,
from 670 to score. That's badass. Oh yeah.
Felt like I was by the campfire, you know.
Let's finish it off with Big Cat. Like, let's go. Great time tonight, guys.
Prelude to the pre off season. You know,
Right.
we got it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. 2 more weeks. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be fun. Good times.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good time.
Yeah. Hey, fellas, really quickly, can I get everybody's thoughts on that? Do you anticipate that Ryan will be going hard and heavy Terrence Foz tracks on March 15th? Can you see the Bears maybe making 3 signings on that opening day of the free agency season?
I don't know about on the first day. I think within the first day, first or second day, I think we hit a pretty heavy splash. But I think it's going to be throughout the whole preseason. I think as we get the free agency, I think you're going to look and you're going to see, you know, guys become available, things happen. I think just like was mentioning before, it may be somebody that something happens down the line before the season starts, pre-draft, but maybe not during free agency. Sure.
I mean, they got the money to do whatever they want with. So, I mean, if they have a hot commodity they're really focusing on right now that we don't know nothing about, I mean, maybe the first day, just try and lock someone down. I mean, I would be surprised, but I mean, who knows, man? I mean, Jalen Carter this morning, like every day is a new adventure. So I'm just anticipating to see it, man, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think they're going to go after one big star and kind of help give them a better vision of what's going to happen for the draft, and then probably wait a few more days to see who falls, so that way they can get them at a cheaper or a lower rate, and then get maybe a couple mid-grade guys to, you know, filter on back in there and kind of fill in some question marks, see where they're at, and then I think they'll really know, and we'll really know where they're going to be poised and positioned at the draft, because you know, like sure. A couple of you guys have already mentioned, there's some defensive tackles out there in the free agency that we could get. Now, where does that put us in the draft? You know, are we going to go after that Will Anderson, or are we going to go after receiver? I mean,
see, and that's what I've been saying. I think the free agency is really going to determine the future of the draft. I mean, I think the draft is still a question mark for polls, and depending on what they can pull off in free agency is going to change the whole guidelines. I mean,
and you know
if
what?
we clean up in free agency, we might do a small trade to get Will Anderson and get a couple picks. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And
then, you know what? Along with that, after the free agency, that's when we get to see Ryan Poles' true poker face, because then he'll be like, all right, now what? You see what I did, but what am I going to do next? Because a lot of things that we are speculating, because this is the first time we've been in it with him at this level. Now, what are we doing at the next level? You know what I'm saying? So it's really exciting to be in this genesis, like with him and getting it, you know, going, and have, you know, the Christmas, like, you know, Metcalf was saying, you know, the Christmas, the $100 million, the first round overall draft pick. I mean, it's everything you could want.
It's everything. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going
to
be
fun. How are they going to screw it up? How are they going to screw it up? Every Bears fan who's a real Bears fan is thinking the same exact thing. How are they going to screw this up? I'm trying to find like the peak hole of like what they're going to do just to completely.
Hey, Terrence, you know what I wanted to tell? You know what I wanted to tell Metcalf is we might have struck out on Russell Wilson and watching him and his wife go on vacations here or there in the white sands, but you're our version of Russell Wilson, bro. All we got to do is tune in and see where you're at next, man. You're everywhere.
Tune in 2 weeks from today.
Right, exactly.
Follow up.
I love it.
Living my dreams.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. Hey, it's good times. It's good times right now. It's fun to be a Chicago Bears fan right now. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it always is, but this is really good right now.
We deserved it after this last year.
Yeah, I mean,
we deserve to have some fun right now after last.
No matter how pessimistic of a Chicago Bears fan that some people may be, or how optimistic of a Bears fan some fans are, you've got to be excited nonetheless coming into this offseason. I mean, this is, like you said, Traps. I mean, the money, the picks, the number one. It's going to be fun.
Well, and I think what Clete mentioned one time was we actually, what was it, seven games where we were under 7 points or less where we were right in it in the game. So that's 7 potential wins, and we got rid of all of our favorite players on the team, fleeced the team to build for the future. But I mean, could this be? I mean, what's happening? Are we going to be the next Bengals? I mean, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
I am. Same.
Yeah,
100%,
absolutely.
man.
It could be dawn of a great new era for Bears football. It's been an honor and privilege talking with you tonight with you fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Ford Hall of Fame fan, Terrence Young. That's Mike the Foz Fosno, host of the upcoming must-see podcast, First and 10 with Foz. And that's the man who stirs this drink, ladies and gentlemen. Our executive producer, creator, Brandon Trax Hyatt, the man who made this all happen.
And I drink the drink.
Podcast. Only getting bigger and better as we go on. Fellas, you guys have yourself a great night. It's been an honor and privilege talking sports with you. We'll
Thanks,
see you
guys.
Always,
Thanks, everyone
guys.
watching. You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks everybody out there watching tonight.
All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
You good?
Have a great night,
Go
everybody.
Bears.
Don't forget, folks, you can see us everywhere. We're on Facebook, Spotify, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. We are there. I'm Clint Campbell. That's the great Brandon Trax Hyatt. Trax, brother, it's been an honor and privilege. You have a great night, my friend. We'll see you next week.
Same to you.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow,